Lawyers, what's your best most badass I rest my case moment? I was a second-year associate and handling my first trial. I represented the plaintiff. The defendant had an expert witness who had testified previously in about 40 similar cases. This expert came out to my client's property and did a completely bullshit examination of the issue, and his expert report was equally as bullshit. For those of you that don't know, expert testimony needs to meet a certain standard, the Daubert standard, at least in my state, in order to be admissible. This guy basically took some photos and put a ruler on the ground a few times to make his report seem legit. The partners at my firm told me it wasn't worth trying to file a Daubert motion to strike his report/testimony because the case was low value, under $100,000, and those types of motions can be very complex, and didn't want to bill the client for it. I was so angry about this guy being deemed an expert that I came in on a weekend, on my own time, and drafted a 20-page motion to strike his testimony. I didn't bill the client a dime. The defendant didn't file a response to my Daubert motion to strike. Instead, they waited until right before the expert was set to testify. He had been sitting in court racking up fees for 2 full days beforehand. The judge had the jury leave the room, put the expert on the stand, and allow the defendant to do a direct examination of their expert. The defendant's attorney, not taking my motion seriously, had their inexperienced associate, just like me, do the examination. It was incredibly basic and didn't respond to any of the points in my motion. I was in charge of doing his cross-exam. It was my first cross-exam of a witness, ever. I tore the guy, a seasoned expert witness, apart on the stand. I got his entire testimony and report struck. They also had a second expert witness, who was pretty terrible but not quite as terrible. I also did his cross-exam, realizing that they were in serious trouble without their primary expert, and their second expert at risk of getting struck. The lead counsel for the defendant, a named partner at a well-known firm, did the direct exam for the second expert. I again did the cross. I got the second expert's testimony struck except for one very, very tiny area. So essentially he was forced to testify with both hands tied behind his back. It was the most gratifying moment of my legal career so far.